Okay, so the first Harry Potter book has actually two different titles. I'll just share it with us. The first title is the one you see here, which is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And that is what the book is called in the United States when they published it in the United States. There is another title, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and that was the title when they published the book in the United Kingdom, in England. All right? So they thought that it would be more easier to understand if they changed philosophers to Sorcerer's Stone. So we're using the American version. It's the same except for the title. So can you tell me, what is a sorcerer? Anybody know what a sorcerer is?
It means like magic.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's magic. It's a person. A sorcerer is a person who it believes that people believe have magic power. And another synonym or another word for sorcerer is a wizard. Okay, wizard. And if you know anything about Harry Potter, if you've seen the movies and that sort of thing, you know that that's how Harry Potter and their friends refer to each other as wizards. Okay? So it means the same thing. Somebody who is believed to have magic powers. Okay?
Okay.
So tell me, have you ever read this book? Either one of you?
Yes, I've read it for many times.
Okay. And you have too, Anne?
Yeah, I read.
Okay. So let's go. J.K. Rowling is the author, very famous author today since she wrote the Harry Potter books. Okay, chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. And that of course is, who's the boy who lived? Who's the boy who lived? It's Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Harry Potter was not killed. That's Harry Potter. Okay, so we'll do some reading out loud, and we'll do most of the reading quietly to ourselves. But let's start with this page. George, would you like to read this page out loud, please? The first page.
Oh, okay. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Rivet Drive were prone to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was a director of a firm called Groenings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Mustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time running over garden fences, spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Mrs. Potter was Mrs. Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as undurslyish as it was possible to see. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a small son too, but they had never ever seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. and Mrs. Dursley woke up on the door, Great Tuesday, our story starts. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed as he picked out his most boring tie for work, and Mrs. Dursley gossiped away happily and while she wrestled screaming.
Screaming.
Dudley into his high chair.
Okay, thank you, George. That's great. So, the characters that they're talking here on this page is Mr. and Mrs. Dursley. And what are some characteristics of them? What do we know about them? Anne, can you tell me something about them? What's the most important thing we learn about them on this page?
Who?
Sorry?
Them. Them?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
So what do we learn? The important thing that we learn about Mr. and Mrs. Dursley. So how are they related to Harry Potter?
Mr. Dursley is Harry Potter's uncle.
Very good. Yes, that's right. So yes, Mrs. Dursley is actually the sister of Harry Potter's mother. So Mr. and Mrs. Dursley are Harry Potter's aunt and uncle. Very good. Okay, so are they happy to be Harry Potter's aunt and uncle, George or Anne? Are they happy about that?
No,
No.
not at all.
Not at all. That's right. So why not? Why aren't they happy?
Because the Potters are unnormal to the Dursleys.
They are
For some reason.
abnormal. Okay, very good. The Potters are undurslyish, as they say, right? Undurslyish,
Yes.
right there. They are strange, and the Dursleys do not like anybody who is strange. Okay, very good. So they up at the very first paragraph, it tells why. You know, it says they just didn't hold with such nonsense as anything strange or mysterious. What does that mean if you just don't hold with that? Just
that
don't hold.
means you can't bear it. You can't bear it.
You can't fear it, did you say?
I said beer.
Fear, okay. Yeah, well,
Fear.
they just, oh, okay, they just don't believe in it. all right? They just don't believe in anything strange or mysterious. They do not
They
believe.
don't agree. They don't agree.
That's right. Yes. It's just, they just don't think it's possible. Okay. And they do not want anybody to find out about the Potters, right? And they don't want Dudley, their son, to have anything to do with Harry because they think that would be a bad influence on him. Okay. So, Anne, why don't you start reading from here? The next page.
Okay. None of them noticed a large tawny owl flutter past the window. At 8:30, Mr. Dursley picked up his briefcase, pecked Miss Dursley on the cheek, and turned to kiss Dursley goodbye, but missed, because Dursley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the walls. Little Ticky, Mr. Dursley.
Little tyke.
Little Tyke, Mr. Dursley, as he left the house, he got into his car and backed out of number 4 Drive. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed the first sign of something peculiar. A cat reading a map. For a second, Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing on the corner of private drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he have been thinking of? It must have been a trick of the light. Mr. Dursley blinked and stared at the cat. It stared back as Mr. Dursley drove around the corner and up the road. He watched the cat in his mirror. It was now reading the thing that said private drive. No, looking at the thing, cats couldn't read maps or things. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind as he drove towards town. He thought of nothing except a large order of jewels he was hoping to get that day. But on the age of 10, jewels were driven out of his mind by something else. As he sat in the usual morning traffic jam, he couldn't have noticing that there seemed to be a lot of strangely dressed people about. People in cloaks. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dress in funny clothes.
Clothes. Yeah.
The get-ups you saw on young people. He supposed This was some stupid new fashion. He drummed his finger on the steering wheel, and his eye fell on a huddle of these weirdos standing quite close by. They were whispering excitedly at all. Why
Together.
that
They were
man?
whispering excitedly together.
They were whispering excitedly together. Mr. Disley was enraged to see that a couple of them weren't young at all. Why, that man had to be older than he was, and wearing an
Emerald.
emerald green cloak. The nerve of him.
Okay,
But
very
then-
good. That we'll just stop there, Anne. Very good. Thank you. Andy, are you waiting for your teacher?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we have to be in the main room because we are recording this class, but so when you see your teacher, you can just go into your breakout room, okay? Okay, so let's look at this page again. So we learn more about Mr. and Mr. Dursley. What does Mr. Dursley do for a living? What's his job? Anybody know? What's his job? Maybe we can go back up here and it tells you here.
Mr.
Jump.
Dursley was a director of a firm called Grounings,
That's right. And what? Go ahead.
which made drills.
That's right. So a director, he's the head of a firm that makes drills. Very good. Okay. So something strange is happening, right? What's the first unusual thing that happens that day? It's the first thing that happens that's
A cat reading
quite
a
as,
map.
sorry, George?
A cat reading a map.
Okay, yes, a
Oh.
cat reading a map. And of course, cats can't read. So when he looks at it again, the map is gone. But then he sees the cat looking up at the sign and he thinks it's reading the sign. Okay, and he thinks, this is very strange. Right. What's the second strange thing that happens? Anne? Down the second paragraph, the last paragraph here on the screen. What's something, again, strange that he sees happening? Read this one.
As he sat in the usual morning traffic jam, he couldn't help noticing that there seemed
That's a soft C. Noticing.
noticing that there seemed to be a lot of strangely dressed people about.
Yes, so people are wearing funny clothes and he can't stand that. What item of clothing are they wearing that he finds particularly strange? There's one item that they're wearing that he really doesn't like. It's right after that sentence that you read, Anne. People in what?
People in cloaks. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed in funny clothes. The get-ups you saw on young people.
Yes, so it's cloaks. People in cloaks. Do you know what a cloak is? A cloak? It's a cape that you wrap around yourself. Let me show you a picture of somebody wearing a cloak, okay? Okay, share this with you. Okay, so here are some pictures of, you can see this woman over here. She's got a red cloak on, okay? A cloak. You see that? It's like a long cape, often with a hood. That is a cloak. Okay? So that's what people are wearing. And it looks strange because it's not something that you would normally see people wearing. That annoys Mr. Dursley. He sees an older man wearing a cloak of a particular color. What color cloak is one person wearing? An older person. Right at the very end of this page. What color is the cloak? George, can you find the color of the cloak?
Oh. Let me see.
Right at the bottom of this page.
Oh.
Hey, it's right here. That man had to be older.
Emerald green.
That's right. Emerald green. Emerald. An emerald is a jewel, okay? Like a diamond or a ruby. An emerald is a jewel and it is bright green, okay? Emerald green is a bright, bright green. Okay, so it's the color of the jewel, okay? So that's the color the older man is wearing. Oops, I got it in white. Can't see that. Bright green. All right. Let's see. There's a few words here I want to make sure that you understand. Let's see. Okay, up here. He calls Dudley little tyke. Okay, when you would say that to a child, little tyke, what does that mean? Tyke. Anybody know?
Tyke.
Tyke.
Oh, yes.
Sorry? Tyke is
Tyke means,
a little child.
No, it's a small child, especially behave badly, who is very naughty.
Yeah, okay. So it's a small child. That's right.
Yes.
So Dudley behaves badly, right? Little Dudley is a little brat, okay? He's having a tantrum. You know what a tantrum is? It's when a little child, all children go through this stage where if they can't get what they want, they scream or they kick their feet. they cry. It's a normal stage of life, but you get the impression that Dudley does it more than the normal child, okay? And Mr. Dursley, even though Dudley is having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the walls, he just thinks he's just so cute. He doesn't discipline him like a good parent should. He should say, Dudley, we don't throw our cereal at the walls. Our cereal is for eating, right? That's what he should say. Instead, he just says, oh, little tyke, and he laughs. Chortle means laugh, okay? So, oh, Andy, you are in this class I've just read. Hi, I'm Pat Lilly.
Hello,
I'm
Lily.
the teacher. Hi. And the other students are George and Anne.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. So we just started the book, okay?
Okay.
We're on page 2. We've just met Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, who are Harry Potter's aunt and uncle, okay? So they notice some strange things happen. This is before Harry comes to live with them. There's a cat reading a map. And there's some people, strangely dressed people in cloaks. Okay. And he doesn't like people who are strangely dressed.
Okay.
Okay. So, Andy, why don't you read the next page out loud? Where you can start here, but then it struck.
But then it struck Mr. Dursley that this was probably some silly
Stunt.
stunt. Those people were all
Obviously.
obviously collecting for something. Yes, that would be it. The toys
The traffic.
the traffic moved on a 3 minutes later. Mr. Beasley arrived in the
Grunnings. That's the name of the company he works at. Grunnings.
Grunnings parking lot. His mind back on
Drills. That's what they make at Grunnings. Drills.
Mr. Beasley was
Mr. Dursley always
sat with his back to the window in his office on the ninth floor. If he hadn't, he might have found it harder
to concentrate
on
drills
that morning. He didn't see the wolves swoop swoop in past in or daylight. South people down in the street did. They pointed and gazed open mouthed as an owl after owls bed
Overhead.
overhead. Most of them had never seen an owl even at a nice time. Mr. Beasley, however, had a poorly
Normal.
normal owl for morning. He yelled at 5 different people. He made important telephone calls and shouted a bit more. He was in a very good mood.
Until
Lunchtime, when he thought he'd
stretch
his legs and walk across the road to buy himself a bun more the
bakery.
bakery. He'd often
Forgotten
all about the people in clothes until he pushed
past
past a group of them next to the
bakers.
bakers. He yelled them,
Eyed
eyed them angrily as he passed. He didn't know why. Don't they made him uneasy? This bench were whispering excitedly too, and he couldn't see a single Clinton
collecting
tin. It was on his way back past them. Platting a large
donut
in a bag that he chanted 3 words of what they were saying. The porters, that's right. That's what I heard, yes. They're so hurry. Mr. Beasley stopped
stopped dead.
Flogged him. He looked back at the workers as if he wanted to say something to them, but sounds better of it. He dashed back across the
road, hurried up to his office, slammed at his secretary not to
not to
Disturb him.
disturb him,
Seized
seized his telephone and had almost finished
dialing
his phone, and when he charging his mind, he put the receiver back down and stroked his mustache,
the mustache.
thinking, no, he was being
Stupid.
Porter wasn't such an unusual name. He was strange. There were lots of people called Porter who had a son called Harry. Come to think for it,
He wasn't
even sure his
nephew
nephew was
called Harry. Good. Okay.
Was called Harry.
Let's stop there. Okay, so when Mr. Dursley, I should say, first sees all these people in cloaks, what does he think they're doing? What does he think they're doing? Anybody can answer. Look at the first paragraph on this page. What does he think they're doing? And what does he think that they're doing?
He think Butter is stupid.
No, we're looking way up here in the first paragraph. What does he think about the people wearing cloaks?
He think it's never for him.
No. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so the page before, he's talking about the older man in an emerald green cloak, and he says, the nerve of him. That means, how dare he, right? He's very, this man in the green cloak is very inappropriate for wearing a cloak at his age. Okay, that word is nerve of him, the nerve of him. Okay, that is an English expression meaning he's got a lot of guts to be seen out in public like that. Okay, and not in a good way. Okay, but then it struck Mr. Dursley, it struck him, that means he got an idea, that this was probably some silly stunt, okay? That these people were obviously collecting for something. Okay, so what does that mean? What's a stunt in English slang? What does that mean in English slang, a stunt? Anybody know? It means to show off. Okay?
Yes, I know.
Okay, go ahead, George. What were we going to say?
What?
That's what stunt means, to show off in English slang.
Oh, stunt means a dangerous and a very difficult action. Somebody does to entertain people or show off, like you
Okay.
said.
So he thinks that the people are obviously collecting for something. What does that mean if you're collecting for something? Collecting.
Your collecting means to bring things together from different places.
Sorry, guys. I don't know why, but I got kicked out of Zoom. Okay. So let me just share the book again. Okay. So he says that the people in cloaks were collecting for something. Do you know what that means if you're collecting for something? What does it mean?
Collecting means collecting means to bring something from every for some areas.
Okay, yes, that is the meaning of the word collecting. You're right. So in this case, when he says collecting, he thinks they want from all different people money. Okay? Money for some charity. Okay? That they are collecting money for a charity. So maybe for sick people, or maybe for poor people, something like that. Okay, maybe they're collecting money to give to poor children, that sort of thing. Okay, or maybe collecting money to give to people that are in a war zone. Okay, so they're collecting money. So what they would do is have like a little pot or a tin, some kind of a plate, a bowl, and they would ask people to put money in it, right? That's what he thinks that they are doing, why they're wearing cloaks. They're wearing cloaks to get attention. And then once they have your attention, they will ask you for money. Okay? Do you understand that? George, do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So that's what he thinks. Okay, so down in the street, he's way up in his office. He doesn't see what's happening on the street. But what is happening on the street? What do the people walking along the street see? What unusual, weird thing is happening? So that we're going to look in this paragraph to find out what weird and unusual thing is happening on the street. What do they see a lot of? Anne or Andy, what are they seeing a lot of? They see them overhead swooping around. Swooping means like this. If you're flying, you're swooping like that. Woo, swoop down. Woo, swoop down. Swoop. Okay? Like in a big arc. What's swooping around above
Uh,
the sky?
Like swooping around. Swooping around.
And do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
We didn't see the owl swooping past in board.
Okay, read this sentence, everyone. Okay, read that to yourself,
Hello.
everyone, and tell me what was swooping around in the sky over their heads.
He didn't see the owl
swooping
in
past the board.
in
In
broad
broad daylight.
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 Most people
All
down
people down
in
the,
the
in the
street
street did.
They
They pointed and
pointing and
gazed open
they
mouth
open mouth
as oil after oil
spend
sped up overhead.
Okay, so what
overhead.
did they see?
They see a board. They see a board
Board.
swooping over their head.
Not quite. Andy, did you figure it out? What is swooping over their heads?
It's
Oil.
Yes, Anne. Yes, an owl. Can everybody say that word?
owl.
Owl. That's how you say it.
Owl.
Owl. Ow. Like as if somebody hit you. Ow. With an L sound at the end. Owl. Okay?
Ow.
Owl.
Owl.
Owl. Good.
Owl.
Okay, so what's an owl?
Ow.
An owl.
Ow.
What is it?
It's a kind of bird.
Yeah, it's a big bird. Okay, so let me just show you a picture of an owl. It's a big bird. It is it's a bird that flies at night. Okay? Like, so it's nocturnal, right? It hunts at night.
Wow.
It hunts at night. So usually we don't see owls because they are they're sleeping during the day and they hunt at night. But this owl is out and about. These owls are in the daytime swooping around so everybody can see them. Okay, so here's pictures of owls. Let's see if I can get a big picture here for you. Slow. Here's slow. Come on, owls. There we go. See an owl? That's an owl.
Yeah.
Here's an owl in the light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and they're big, right? They're probably about 40 centimeters high. My doggy wants to say hello. Can you say hello, Tank? Say hello, Tank. Hello. Okay, you go out. Go down now, Tank. There we go. Okay, so that's an owl. Okay, owls are very important in this story. Okay, owls are very important animals in this story. So they see a lot of animals flying around, and it's very unusual to see an owl during the day because owls sleep during the day, let alone seeing a whole bunch of owls flying around. So this is very unusual. But Mr. Dursley doesn't notice because he's way up in his office in a big building. Okay? Now, when he goes downstairs to the bakery to get a donut, you know what a donut is? It's a big round piece of pastry. It's very good. It's sweet, tasty. He notices that these people in cloaks are talking about who? Who are they talking about? Okay, he overhears them talking. And who are they talking about? Look at this paragraph here. These two paragraphs. Who are they talking about?
Stupidity.
Andy, do you think you know? Who are they talking about?
They're talking about
They're talking about Harry.
Yes, Harry Potter. Yes, they're Harry Potter. And it says when he heard them talking about Harry Potter, he stopped dead. What does that mean, to stop dead? George, do you know? What does it mean to stop dead?
Stop dead.
Yeah.
Where?
Mr. Dursley stopped dead. Right here.
It means he stopped suddenly.
Yes, he stopped very suddenly. He's walking along and all of a sudden he stops. Oh my gosh, he hears about Harry Potter. And he's suddenly afraid because he doesn't like the Potters. Okay? And he runs back to his office to call his wife at home. But then he stops because he thinks, no, he's being stupid to be afraid. Potter wasn't such an unusual name. So he thinks maybe they're talking about some other Potters, Harry Potter. Maybe it's not his nephew that they're talking about. Maybe it's some other family they're talking about. Okay? He hopes that they're not talking about the Potters that he knows. Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, 5 minutes, and you can go to the washroom or have a drink, stretch your legs, and I will call you back in 5 minutes, okay?
Okay.
At 3:00, okay?
你去刷洗脸吧。
等我一个
Okay, everyone. Let's reconvene, get back to our book.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, hi, George. Anne, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we read the next page to ourselves? Okay, so this is Mr. Dursley thinking. He says, oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people called Potter. Maybe it's not my nephew named Potter. Okay, so he says, come to think about it, he wasn't even sure his nephew was called Harry. Okay, so I want you to read the next page all the way down to this normal cat behavior. Okay, so read this just to yourself. Okay, and let me know when you're finished. Welcome back, Andy. We're just reading this page, okay?
Sorry, teacher, my Wi-Fi is not good.
That's okay. We're just reading this page to ourselves, okay? reading it to ourselves. Tell me when you finish the page.
I'm okay.
Okay. You're finished, George? Okay, so why doesn't Mr. Dursley phone Mrs. Dursley, his wife, and tell her that he's heard these strange people talking about the Potters? Why doesn't he call her? This is in the first paragraph. First paragraph, you know what that is, right? Like every time there's a like a gap, like this is paragraph 1, paragraph 2, right? Paragraph 3. So look in paragraph 1 to find the answer to my question. Why doesn't Mr. Dursley call his wife and tell her about the strange people talking about the Potters? So you're looking in paragraph 1.
Because Potter wasn't such an unusual name. He was sure there were a lot of people called Potter who had a son called Harry.
Very good. So he says he doesn't even know if they're talking about her, like her relatives. Maybe they're talking about some other Potter family. Good. Okay, so that's one reason. What's another reason? That's in paragraph 1. Look at the screen. Read this paragraph. Tell me why is he called? There's another reason. Your reason is very good, and there's 2 reasons.
And he'd never ever seen Harry.
He's never seen Harry, right? So he doesn't know if they're talking about Harry. But there's another reason about his wife. He doesn't tell her. George, can you figure out what it is? Well, look at the paragraph, the first paragraph that I labeled number 1. Read that. Just read here. Okay, so I'm going to underline the line for you.
Yeah. Or what should I answer?
Okay, read that out loud, please, George.
There was no point in worrying Mrs. Dursley. She always got so upset at any mention of her sister.
Okay, so why doesn't he tell her? What's another reason why he doesn't tell her?
Because she can't bear that somebody mentioned her sister.
Yeah, she gets very upset when anybody talks about her sister. So Mr. Dursley doesn't want to get her upset. So he doesn't call. Okay. But when he leaves work, he runs straight into a little man and he practically knocks him over. Okay. But instead of being mad at Mr. Dursley for being knocked over, this little man smiles. And what does he say to Mr. Dursley? Tell me what the little man says to Mr. Dursley. So you're looking in paragraph 3. What does the little man say to Mr. Dursley? Have a read there. I just want you to read me exactly what he says. Anybody find what he says?
Mr. Dursley says, "Don't be sorry, my dear sir, for nothing could upset my day. Rejoice, for you now who has gone at last."
That's right. Keep going.
Even muggles like yourself should be celebrating this happy day.
Very good. Thank you, Anne. That's great. So that's what the little man says to Mr. Dursley. He says, this is a special day, for you know who is gone. And everybody should be celebrating. Okay, so Mr. Durst thinks, whoa, this is really weird. Okay, so he hurries home, and the first thing he sees when he pulls into his driveway is what? What does he see when he arrives home? You're looking right here. What does he see when he arrives home?
Mr. Dursley spotted that morning.
He sees the same thing he saw in the morning. What is it that he sees?
The cat.
The cat. He sees that same cat that looked like he was reading a map. So he doesn't like that. And he tries to get rid of the cat. He says, shoo, shoo to the cat to make the cat go, but the cat doesn't move. Okay, very good. Okay, so he says, was this normal cat behavior, Mr. Dursley wondered? Trying to pull himself together, he let himself into the house. He was still determined not to mention anything to his wife. Mrs. Dursley had had a nice, normal day. She told them over dinner all about Mrs. Next Door's problems with her daughter and how Dudley had learned a new word, won't. Mr. Dursley tried to act normally. When Dudley had been put to bed, he went into the living room in time to catch the last report on the evening news. And finally, bird watchers everywhere have reported that the nation's owls have been behaving very unusually today. Although owls normally hunt at night and are hardly ever seen in daylight, there have been hundreds of sightings of these birds flying in every direction since sunrise. Experts are unable to explain why the owls have suddenly changed their sleeping pattern. The newscaster allowed himself a grin. Most mysterious. And now over to Jim McGuffin with the weather. Going to be any more showers of owls tonight, Jim? Well, Ted, said the weatherman, I don't know about that, but it's not only the owls that have been acting oddly today. Viewers as far apart as Kent, Yorkshire, and Dundee have been phoning in to tell me that instead of the rain I promised yesterday, they've had a downpour of shooting stars. Perhaps people have been celebrating bonfire night early. It's not until next week, folks, but I can promise a wet night tonight. Mr. Dursley sat frozen in his armchair. Shooting stars all over Britain? Owls flying by daylight? Mysterious people in cloaks all over the place? And a whisper about the Potters. Mrs. Dursley came into the living room carrying 2 cups of tea. It was no good. He'd have to say something to her. He cleared his throat nervously. Petunia, dear, you haven't heard from your sister lately, have you? Okay, so tell me, he learns about 2 weird things that have happened that day. 2 unusual things. What are the unusual, weird, strange things that have happened according to the news? What's 1 and what's 2? Sorry, 1 and 2. So, what are the 2 strange things that happened? You just have to tell me 1. So what did the guy on the news say had been happening? Okay, so you're looking in these 2 paragraphs. This paragraph tells about 1 unusual thing, and this paragraph tells about the 2nd strange thing.
The first strange thing is bird watchers everywhere have reported that the nation's owls have been behaving very unusual today.
Very good. They talk about the owls. The owls are flying all over the place and they're supposed to be sleeping during the day, but instead they're awake and flying around. Very good, Anne. Okay, everybody, or George and Andy, what's happening in the second paragraph that I circled? What's the weird thing that happened? George, see if you can figure it out, or Andy? It's an unusual occurrence.
It's
Said instead of rain, they got something else.
The weatherman says, the weatherman told weatherman that instead of the rain yesterday, but today it's downpour of shooting star.
That's right. Very good. There's been shooting stars. So I don't know if you've ever seen a shooting star, but it's a star that all of a sudden across the sky just goes sweeping across the sky in the night sky. You can see the star traveling across the sky. So it's unusual to see a shooting star, but people have seen a whole bunch of them. A downpour, that means a lot of them, of shooting stars in the sky. Very good. So this really disturbs Mr. Dursley because he's thinking, oh no, something weird is happening. So he finally thinks, I've got to talk to my wife about her sister, the Potters. Okay, and he says, have you heard from your sister? Okay, let's see. So I want everybody, this will be our last page. I want everybody to read this page to themselves, okay? And tell me when you're finished.
还有7分钟。
那可没事了吗？弄完你就直接睡觉了吧？
弄完了，我今天不洗澡了吧？
你不冲啊？冲一个吧，就几分钟出来了。
等我冲完，除了我读2个星期给妈妈发一个东西就可以了。
你还要读《西游记》？
老师让我们每周都读一个。
那罗叔叔晚上跟你说呀？
要不然明天他从表弟那屋7个月把表弟整醒了。
Anne, you have a question?
I'm okay.
You've done. Okay, great. Okay.
I'm
George,
finished.
tell me when you're done. Andy, tell me when you're done reading.
I'm finished.
Okay. Andy, have you finished reading?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Okay, so he talks about the sister to Mrs. Dursley, right? She does not like talking about her sister, but she says no, she hasn't heard anything from her sister. And Mr. Dursley tells her about the weird things he saw. And he says, you know, I wondered if it was something to do with your sister. And he asks, what's the name of their son? Is it Howard? And she says, no, it's Harry. So it says, Mr. Dursley, his heart sinking horribly. Why? So this is an English expression that means that you are sad. Sad and, sad and afraid. So why is he sad and afraid? Why is he sad and afraid? George, what do you think? Why is Mr. Dursley sad and afraid?
On one hand, Mrs. Dursley was afraid because she think maybe the wizards will hurt her.
Okay.
And on the other hand, she wants to be a wizard, but she didn't let this come true.
Okay, so he is afraid of the wizards, that they'll hurt him. Are they afraid, do you think, that they'll actually hurt the Dursleys or that they will embarrass the Dursleys? What do you think? So what do we know about the Dursleys? They don't like anything strange, right? So do you think they really think they're going to hurt them, or they just will make them feel very uncomfortable? What do you think?
I think they will not really hurt her.
No, they're not going to hurt them, but they'll make them feel very uncomfortable. Okay? And it makes him feel like when he stares out at that cat who's still there. It's like, what is that cat still doing there? It's just so weird. And he says, could all this have anything to do with the Potters? If it did, see, look at here. If it got out that they were related to a pair of, well, he didn't think he could bear it. So he is afraid Mr. Dursley, is that how you spell it? Dursley is afraid other people will know they are family, they are related to wizards. So he's not afraid that they'll hurt him. He's afraid that other people will find out that they've got wizards in the family. Okay? Do you understand that, Andy and George?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
understand.
Okay, very good. Well, this is the end of our class. So for homework, I'm going to ask you to please read to the end of the chapter. So that's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's a lot. 9. Didn't know if it was so long. Yeah, read to the end of the chapter, another about 9 pages, and I'm going to send you some questions about it to make sure that you understood it. Okay? Is there any questions about that?
No.
Okay, that's great. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for coming to class. I hope you're enjoying the novel. So I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher. Bye.
Bye, George.
Bye.
Bye, Ann. Bye, Andy.
Bye.
Bye.